Okay, abusuya yeba eba bebreki NDC General Secretary ne nsɛm bi a ɔde bɛto dwa ɔkyerɛ sɛ NDC lawyers no ne NPP fo bi kate deals a ɔmo pɛ sɛ saa nkɔɔfo wei no escape free prosecution na ene ensɛm a aba bɛto dwa no sisi ano NPP nkɔɔfo bi a ɔmo ne saa NDC lawyers no amerge a ɔmo de fight against President Mahama ne government no saa nkɔɔfo yi edin aba bɛto dwa NPP apparatchiks bi ɔmo ɛna ɛkyɛ sɛ ɔmo din aba bɛto dwa NDC Gûřûs ɔmo na ɔmo ne ɛkyɛ sɛ NDC lawyers yi saa adeɛ a ɔmo pɛ sɛ ɔmo escape from prosecution na NDC lawyers no so no abusua Fifi Kwete aye ready sɛ ɔde ɔmo din ɛbɛto dwa but sisi ano deɛ NPP nkɔɔfo bi a kyɛ sɛ ɔmo ne lawyers yi edi saa adwuma no ɔmo din ɛna aba na next to follow saa lawyers a ɔmo ne saa nkɔɔfo no adwuma mama yɛnkɔ na yɛnkɔ ti nsɛm a ɛkɔ so unsubscribe ya subscribe like na share ma afoforo so nsa ntumi nka bi aha Ghana politics avenue so madam ase.
Failure to do so could bring down or erode every gain that this government would make. And you remember, if I'm asking you this question based on what happened in the Eswal administration, you remember former senior minister Safumafo when he employed the services of Kroll and Associates, and how that particular, how it ended, the scandal that it brought upon the Akuffo government. You, I know, are a champion of this oral course. Are you satisfied with the direction that this is going, looking at the damning revelation that Fifi Kwete has told the Ghanaian people?
Well, I'll change one word in your preamble from quote to bold. In that if oral fails, the NDC would have failed, Ghanaians would have failed itself. And therefore, it's not a matter of quote, but would not only lose power, but would lose favor with Ghanaians for a very long time. And so this is non-negotiable. Personally, I believe that we've all had reasons to join various political parties or associate with political parties, and people have voted in elections based on convictions. Some have voted obviously for other reasons, like maybe a little bit of this and that, people being paid to vote, among other things. But I think that for some of us, we've had cause to campaign based on beliefs that we've had. I personally joined the NDC because of what the NDC stands for. The policy objectives, the principles and the doctrine of the NDC is something that I can relate to. I believe that social democracy, as was professed by the NDC, was for me more appealing than the property owning democracy of the NPP. In my view, at the time of joining the NDC, I believed that one of the key things that for me was being looted, and since you're talking about oral, the Operation Recover or Loot, was lands. It wasn't just state funds. People have come into government and looted state funds. Yes, those loots must be recovered. The plundering of the public purse must be recovered, retrieved, as it were, and returned to the state. In my instance, I've had at least almost 3 decades of fighting for the Gadangme lands, the Ga lands, the La lands, and much of which has been looted. In fact, I come from La, and the La lands are the most looted. So I've had reason to believe that if we're recovering all the loot, and that should include state-acquired lands that were acquired by the state for state purposes, then the looting of same cannot be right, and so it must be recovered to the states, and where necessary, where the purpose is no longer tenable, that's in accordance with the Constitution, returned to the original owners. That's the stools from which these lands were taken. And no one, no third party should be given any consideration. I don't believe in governments selling lands, leasing lands. And that's not the business of government. It shouldn't be the government's business, because that lends itself to, cronyism, looting, stealing, and all sorts of things. I mean, we've seen that under Akuffo. Akuffo stole all the car lands and gave it to himself, his family members, his ministers, chief justices, judges. In fact, he corrupted the entire government machinery. In fact, it was a deliberate, systematic, effort to, as it were, corrupt the system to cover the corruption of his regime. I mean, Akuffo was christened mother serpent of corruption. But before that, there was a father. And that was Akuffo, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I mean, if our General Secretary, that's the NDC's General Secretary, is sane, and he's in a very good position to know. He's not only privy to cabinet, meetings, but where he sits in the party, he's the CEO of the party and has, oversight, excessive oversight. So we cannot, as it were, trivialize the statements he's made. But I would have wished that he had gone a step further to name those persons in government or in positions who are, as it were, thwarting the, the national effort to recover the loot. In fact, I know that a number of Ghanaians have expressed their dissatisfaction with the Operation Recover All Loot. I mean, the name says Recover All Loot. But then again, we operate within the reality of, our existence. It's not just about the familial and other interferences that are being talked about. But to recover loot goes beyond just mere recovering. Like you go, even take a look at the Sisi Power one that was obvious, almost like palpable theft of state funds, which can be traced to, in the view of most Ghanaians, to various contracts that were awarded, including the sanitation contract that was awarded and supposedly misappropriated. There was one to do with the Dredge Masters. That's a Dredge Master contract, the one to dredge about 40 million or so was lost, and somehow the other around the same period. So circumstantial evidence was pointing in a certain direction. However, we're told that funeral donations and cobbler brothers who are deceased and mothers, funeral whatever, account for those monies. I mean, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has not been able to, as it were, do that. It's been now tossed back to IOCO. I believe very strongly in some of the institutions more than others because of the persons who are in charge. Honestly, I don't have much confidence in the Special Prosecutor. Not because he was appointed by President Akuffo, or not because he was a friend of Gabby or no. But his actions, utterances, and the way he's generally conducted his business does not give confidence. Doesn't inspire confidence, and his record so far is, I don't want to use the word abysmal, but there's nothing to show for it for all the time, and so I accept a little bit of froth and heat. However, we've all seen what in the past few months Raymond Archer has done with the Office of the Economic and Organized Crime. Coming on the back of the exit of the bootlicker, what's her name, the former CID boss, the one who built a statue for herself, COP Tiwa, yes. I mean, we saw what Tiwa was doing with the IOCO. We've seen what her predecessors were doing. I think Raymond has introduced a little bit more bite, and the latest addition to that office gives even greater inspiration. That's the board chairman, Addo, a no-nonsense man who will not look left, will not pander to partisan, whatever. I think that is the kind of way we want to see our institutions. If you take the BNI, for example, which was previously loaded with apparatchiks of Gabby, in fact, people who were serving in Gabby's, organization, Danko Institute, were actually put in charge of national security. And also the BNI. So with the exit of these and credible people being put there, I want to believe that the state security agencies should be able to not just bite, but chew. I think that legislation, however, may need to be strengthened to give them further, opportunity to do various things. I want to also see that the Public Accounts Committee, which has had, new powers conferred on it, including some prosecutorial listen of people who come before the Public Accounts Committee, either perjure themselves or are not, as it were, forthcoming with audits, general's reports, findings, and management committee, briefs that have been, brought before, that they are actually immediately hauled and dealt with. I think that slowly we're getting there. Institutionally, we're getting there. However, it is human beings that drive the institutions, and so if there are human beings who have been identified, as in the case of the General Secretary of the NDC, having stated categorically, and I want to believe what the reports and the newspapers are correct. I haven't heard it though, but I know it's from the Herald newspaper. I trust Larry Dogbe. He's a good journalist, and I want to believe that these that are captured in his newspaper, unlike the Daily Guide and others that I don't trust so much. I think that...
It's not just the Herald. Some other papers have also...
No, but I'm saying that you're reading from the Herald, which I trust.
Yes.
If it was from the Daily Guide, I would have taken it with a pinch of salt. Yeah. In fact, a heap of salt. So I'm saying that if that is indeed the statement, I want Fifi, who is a no-nonsense person, who has led a charge as far as the NDC's setting the records straight has been. I want him to, as it were, put names so we can go to specifics. No, seriously. I mean, that is the way to tackle corruption. In fact, I have been at the back of... Yes, I have been at the back of chasing people who have looted things that I can firmly say. And Chief Justices, Sofa Akuffo and Georgina Wood, have been consistent on their case, and none of them has been able to sue because they are looters. Plain and simple. They've looted lands and have evidence of that, and have proven and given evidence. And I want...
None of them have been able to sue.
Yes. Georgina Wood sent people to come and beg me. Yes, he did. Yes. When an Article 146 petition was made against her regarding the International Students Hostel, land, which she and a whole list of NPP lawyers, in fact, including judges, Kunya here was part of it. Freddie Blair was part of the loot. I mean, just name them. Just name them. Hajia Lima was part. The one who was in charge of stool lands recently. The administrator of. She used to work.
If these allegations are more.
These are facts. Evidence was adduced. In fact, listen, the 146 had attachments of, the people who had looted. In fact, in the case of Sophia Akuffo, she paid 7,000 Ghana cedis for cantonment land. Who does that? In fact, the particulars of all the transactions were put as an appendix to the petition. Yes, an appendix to the petition for her removal as Chief Justice under President Akuffo, which he refused to act on for 2 years until she retired on her 70th birthday. What's attached? It wasn't just her, the whole list, plenty of people. Osafumafo, Napo, everybody was in there. In fact, you see, President Akuffo, the reason I said he was the father of corruption, okay, is because he systematically allowed the looting to happen of the Accra lands. And he gave everybody, like Sechi Hughes, Speaker of Parliament, and some MPs. His cabinet in Paris, his cabinet secretary in Paris, he gave him, and his cabinet members, including other ministers. Then he went into the security services. He gave P.K. Achampong, then IGP, and some, he went into the military. He went everywhere. He went into the diplomatic service. He went, even the World Bank, and he actually gave a land like confetti. But fortunately, there are records of these, and it indicates the size of the land, the location of the land, the amount paid, and all those were made as attachments to the petition for the removal of Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo, and yet she remains. And today she is rather trying to find ways of exonerating another Chief Justice who has been, removed. I would have wanted a situation where they are brought back. These two Chief Justices should be brought back and dismissed.
Right.
But you see,
I have a question for you, by the way. You have expressed confidence, and of course you've I don't want to say exalt, but you've praised Raymond Acha for the work he's doing at the Economic and Organized Crime Office. But some arrests have been made. When these arrests are made, we are told that these are the reasons for which these arrests have been made. Subsequently, some of these people are granted bail. The latest, I think, is Akuffo. I don't know, bail of 10 million cedis. I don't know if he's able to meet it, but we understand that until he's able to meet these bail conditions, he would still be at Yoko. Now, when these people are bailed, we are not informed on the next steps that are being taken. We are not updated. So it appears that, correct me if I'm wrong, it appears that once someone who is arrested meets a bail condition and the person is free, that is it. You don't hear anything again from the economic and
I think we should hold the media to it, and also the NPP. You see, recently the Attorney General started something that was it's not novel, because the government, or at least this government, has had pressure for, as it were, putting out what various ministries are doing, and soon it will trickle down to departments and agencies are doing, so that the good people of Ghana will be informed. In fact, we need to be given regular updates by the AG, the EOCO, and all those other people, and then it will bring to an end the question that you asked. Now, in the wake of all of these, you've seen the NPP, as it were, try to chastise the AG and other such institutions, including the OSP, for putting out information on allegations and possible prosecutions of people, etc., and claiming that they are being defamed and so on. Of course, the Ghana Bar Association and other entities we know are parts and appendages of the NPP. They have been sharing out similar information, which is not helpful. But the media should stand their ground, and in the interest of serving the good people of Ghana with the right information, put out these facts, or at least be on the case of these agencies to churn out these facts. Now, let me just be clear. We've had instances where even when these people are arrested, you have the micro-minority leader, Afeni Makin, and some people go in there to try and prevent these arrests. You've had a third vice chairman of the NPP actually go out there and say that if your house, security agents come into your house, shoot and kill them. I mean, what has happened to them? I think that these people must be picked up and arrested and prosecuted separately from whatever crimes that these people are purported to have done. Because it is not the right of anyone to indicate that someone should go and shoot a security person.
But must we kowtow to the demands of these people? Of course, there's the state is the state is an institution on its own. You have prosecutorial powers. The Attorney General, Yoko and Co.
Yes.
I mean, can't you do your work despite these pressures and say, because for me that is no excuse. If the NPP in Parliament led by Akroma Markin are putting pressure on you to release someone, it shouldn't be enough for you to release them. Do what you're supposed to do.
Yes, but you see, all offences in the country, apart from I think murder, are bailable. And so you cannot hold anyone in your custody for beyond the 48 hours and so on. Of course, there are ways, of going around some of these things where the person can be let off, another institution can pick them up, or the same institution can pick them up. I mean, all these things happen. But you see, the good thing also is that, now I want to give a lot of listen to Black Rasta. He's one of your colleagues in the media. He's put out CCTV camera footage of the house of, what's his name? The guy, the one who did the bank accounts with his wife, siphoning the NSB's money. What's his name? Addo. Yes. Showing how on the night of Addo's arrival at the airport, the series of vehicles that came to the house, how the wife in a towel was packing suitcases allegedly filled with money and other valuables. CCTV camera in the house. I mean, obviously it wasn't installed by them. Obviously the footage didn't come from them. But I mean, media people, investigative journalists do all sorts of things, and maybe well, whatever. But bottom line is that at least some of the media people are going a step further to put out information that gives a basis for the public to see what is happening. But I think that the General Secretary of the NDC must do Ghanaians a favor. If it is not going to be seen as though the NDC is shielding its own, who he's alleging to be stampeding the process or stopping the process, because that should not happen. But the NDC should be the last party to do that. I, for example, I've said it countless times, I would find it difficult, perhaps impossible to even campaign for the NDC if the NDC is not able to live by the things that it says it will do. For example, I mean, in the last election, if it wasn't for oral, I'd have a very difficult time trying to campaign to people about the Greater Accra lands. But for the president promising that he's going to set up a presidential commission of inquiry into these lands, I would have no campaign message. But the president did, and I'm going to hold him to it. Right. He's already set it up. It's at the lands commission and as well lands ministry. They have started preliminary work, and soon it will all be out there. At least the president is doing some of the right things. He said he's going to give reparation or restitution to the Greater Accra lands, particularly the La lands which I've been campaigning for. So I have a campaign message. But if in the same vein the NDC people are stealing those lands, that will be difficult, which will name and shame. And I think that should happen.
Prince Derek, let me come to Dr. Marzuk. Dr. Marzuk, you've been following Kiri. I remember that in one of our, not one, but perhaps a few of our episodes here on Monday.
Okay, I was winning and some so our political highway so a year fifi kwete NHS ne nsema orebetu dwa about the fight against corruption na NDC lawyers ne NPP nkofo bi cut deal andano edin bi mu drope and honsem ena ye de brema ebusua enye asam keto akrabeda mase se moje pene kokoti sa ensem we ere emai aha Ghana Politics Avenue. So unsubscribe here, subscribe, like it. Na sound so share ma for front so enter into me and Gabby. Medamasi.